A carpenter's house stands on the edge of the village, with 2 or 3 wooden crosses hanging in front. In the distance, Philomena, the carpenter's daughter, walks toward the house, balancing a water jug on her head. She sets the jug down and looks up, spotting Barabbas approaching. When Barabbas reaches the door, he asks, "Where's your father?" "He's in the workshop out back," Philomena replies. Barabbas starts to head toward the workshop, saying, "All right, I'll talk to him." But Philomena steps in his way, gently grabbing his hand, her eyes soft with affection. She says, "Wait, you still haven't answered my question from the other day." Barabbas tries to pull away, avoiding her gaze. Barabbas pauses, turning to face her. "Philomena, you're the younger sister of my best friend. The biggest betrayal is betrayal of a friend. What are you trying to make me do?" Without waiting for a response, he heads into the workshop. Philomena hesitates for a moment, then quietly follows him. In a workshop, a 60-year-old carpenter named Jordan was busy working. When he saw Barabbas enter, he affectionately said, "Barabbas, come, sit." When Barabbas sat down, he sat next to Barabbas and asked, "Why don't you come home like before?" "Have you forgotten your friend Jonas?" Barabbas replies, "No, they made me the leader of the Gentiles, except the Jews. The work has been overwhelming, so I couldn't come." "Where is Jonas?" "He came home twice looking for me. He wanted to talk about something important. That's why I'm here now." Just then, Philomena entered with a jug of wine. She poured a cup for Barabbas and sat on the bench opposite him, watching him curiously. Barabbas asked the carpenter, "How is your work going?" The carpenter said, "I can't work like before. I'm getting old, aren't I?" Barabbas looked him in the eye. "Do you truly understand the work you're doing?" Philomena interrupted sharply. "We do the work the government gives us. What's wrong with that?" Barabbas turned to her, his tone serious. "Philomena, for every cross your father makes, a life is taken. Do you realize that?" Philomena frowned. "Criminals pay for their own sins. Why should we feel guilty for that?" Barabbas's voice rose with anger. "And do you think only the guilty die on those crosses? What about the innocent?" The carpenter, his face heavy with sadness, admitted quietly, "They do. I know it's true, but what can I do?" Barabbas leans in, his voice filled with sadness and frustration. "I know you are a skilled carpenter. You've built magnificent structures in the past. But why did you agree to do the work of joining 2 pieces of wood crosswise, leaving all that behind?" Sadness was visible on the face of the carpenter as he silently stared back. Then, the carpenter frantically says to Barabbas, "I was a master carpenter 20 years ago when I lived in Nazareth. My wife passed away. That day I died inside. Now, I'm only alive in this town for my children. They're grown now. My son Jonas is a soldier and stands on his own." While saying, "I can finally quit making crosses by the end of this month." Jonas arrives home dressed as a soldier. Seeing him from a distance, Barabbas steps out of the carpenter's workshop. Jonas smiles as he approaches him and gives Barabbas a warm hug. Barabbas asked, "They told me you came to my house twice. Is there something important?" Jonas replied, "Barabbas has news. Come with me," and led him to the garden outside. To Barabbas, he said, "The government has received many reports about you. They're saying you're planning a protest against them and gathering people for it. You're being watched by their spies." Barabbas replied, "I know. That's why I don't visit your house much." Jonas said, "Don't, my friend. The government is like a huge machine, and you can't defeat it." Angrily, Barabbas replied, "How long will we stay slaves to this? The Jews are supposed to be a superior race, but other races are treated as slaves. What about us? Are we not human? Don't we have feelings? How many cruelties have been done to us? We're excluded from the town, denied the same food. Even in death, we're ignored. No respect while we're alive, and none after we're dead. We don't even have a proper place to bury our bodies after death. For years, we've been hearing land from them. Who has ever listened to our cries? Our bodies are thrown from the mountain like orphans. Dogs, foxes, and eagles feast on them. Only when a Jew dies do they get a separate grave. But when we die, our bodies are just food for animals. Where's the justice in that? Barabbas said furiously. Jonah looked at him and replied, We're Jews too, but we don't see you as a stranger. We see you as our brother. For that I'll be forever grateful to you, Barabbas said, his voice filled with emotion. Jonah shook Barabbas's hand and said, I understand that your request is reasonable, but you can't do anything against the government. It'll ruin your life. My life has always been for the people of my people, Barabbas replied. Barabbas pulled his hand away and walked out of the garden, Jonah looking in the direction he was going. Along the long mountain road, thousands of people are walking. Barabbas is among them, his face filled with confusion, wondering, why are all these people going in such large numbers? He approaches someone and asks, What's going on? Where are you all going? The person replies, We're going to see Jesus. Barabbas, not knowing who Jesus is, asks, Jesus? Who is that? The man answers, You don't know Jesus? He's a preacher. He teaches people how to be free from sin. He heals the sick and brings hope. The man walks away, and Barabbas stands there, puzzled. He watches the crowd, his curiosity growing. Who is this Jesus? He thinks to himself. Deciding to follow the crowd, Barabbas begins walking up the mountain with them. When he reaches the area where Jesus is sitting on a rock, teaching the people, he tries to get closer, but the crowd is too thick. Unable to move forward, Barabbas climbs a nearby hill to get a better view. From the distance, he saw Jesus sitting on a rock, speaking to tens of thousands of people. Barabbas watched in amazement, surprised by what he saw.